Are you overwhelmed by what cards you should be playing right now? I put together 4 decks that you should definitely give a try. Whether you're new to the game or you've been playing since before it came out, these decks are gonna get you wins. So without further ado, I'm your host Ronin. Let's get into it. Our first deck goes to Gallade EX. If you haven't seen these cards yet, here's a basic rundown of what Gallade EX does. So Gallade EX has 170 HP. It has one move that is a 2-cost fighting energy, energized blade that does 70 damage, plus the attack does 20 more damage for each energy attached to the opponent's active Pokemon. So we're going to be stacking up damage with however many energy are on the other Pokemon. So I would say most of the time, most Pokemon have at least 2 energy. We're going to do about 110 damage on an average attack with Gallade EX here. Now, the goal of this deck, and why I think it would be considered a basic deck, is that it's very simple to play. Gallade EX is your main card that you want to have in the active spot. Along with this deck, we have to take a look at Lucario's ability, right? So Lucario has 100 HP. It is just a rare, it's not an EX. Its ability is Fighting Coach. Attacks used by your fighting Pokemon do plus 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, right? So now we have Gallade EX, who has a base 70 plus attack. So if we have Lucario out, then we have 90. And I believe that this stacks. So if we have 2 Lucario out, we're doing a base 110 damage along with the damage from the energy on the opponent's Pokemon. So 130, 150. It depends on the energy on the Pokemon. Gallade EX is going to hit for a good amount, and it could 2-shot most Pokemon. This is a very basic deck. You want to put Lucario on your bench. Keep it there because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. We want Gallade in the active spot so Gallade can do stacked damage from the Lucarios that are on your bench. So we have the new Pokemon communication card in here, where you choose a Pokemon in your hand and switch it with a random Pokemon in your deck. If you don't have the right Pokemon at the right time, this is also going to help you after you play like a Pokeball. You've drawn your basic Pokemon that you need, and those are now on the bench, and maybe you have 2 Kirlia and you don't really need 2 Kirlia. You can get rid of a Kirlia to possibly draw for a Gallade or possibly draw for like a Lucario to evolve. This is going to help you just flip through that. The Pokemon goes back into your deck and not discarded, which is a huge, huge bonus. So you could still end up drawing into that card. We also have, I've got 1 Rocky Helmet and 1 Giant Cape in here for Pokemon tools. We're going to utilize those. For me, I wanted to have 1 of each in this deck so I could play around it. And then we just have our normal Professor's Research. And then we have 1 Cyrus and we have 1 Sabrina. What Cyrus does is you switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. Now, what's great about this card is that with Cyrus versus Sabrina, with Cyrus, you get to choose the Pokemon that they send out. With Sabrina, it's just whatever the opponent picks. But if there's multiple Pokemon on the opponent's bench that have damage on it, you get to specifically choose which one you want to bring to the active spot, which is phenomenal. This could win so many games for you, just this card alone. That is the overall goal of this deck, is to play the Gallade, build up the bench with the Lucarios to do extra damage. Yeah, it's just overall, it's going to be a very basic deck to play. And there could be other opportunities to like switch in different Pokemon. There are definitely more than one ways to play this deck. So we're going to move on to the next one. We have Dialga EX. This is a very basic level gameplay deck. However, it's like got 1 goal in mind. So what we want here is we're playing around Dialga's Metallic Turbo move. So it's its first move. It takes 2 Metal Energy to use the move. Metallic Turbo, it does 30 damage. Now you take 2 metal energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. The original thought was stack up the Melmetal. Now, Dialga does not deal a lot of damage. It takes 4 energy to use Heavy Impact, and it does 100 damage. That will two-shot most Pokemon. If we take a look at these cards, so we know what Melmetal does. It has its ability Hard Coat that does it will take minus 20 from attacks from your opponent, which is really solid, right? So it's a really defensive card. However, it takes 4 energy to use. So that's why we have the Dialga to be able to boost it up. So two attacks from the Dialga with the Metallic Turbo, and we're immediately able to use the Melmetal. So we can swap into that, right? But now we also have added the Shieldon and Bastiodon. Guarded Grill. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin. If heads, this Pokemon takes a minus 100 damage from that attack. And it has 160 HP, right? So if we flip a coin and we get lucky, we could take minus 100, which could negate the entire attack completely. It could just completely protect it. And this is every turn. Any damage by attacks, not by abilities or by status effects, but like any damage from attacks. This could negate the entire attack, right? These Pokemon don't really hit hard. They don't really have super strong attacks. The biggest attack here is the Melmetal, hitting for 120, but it takes 4 energy again, and that's 2 turns with the Metallic Turbo to build up. Also 1 turn or 2 turns to build up the Bastiodon's attack as well, which takes 3 energy. It does 80 damage. It's, not that crazy, right? But what we have in this deck is pretty cool, actually, in my opinion. We have 2 Dialgas, right? And we have 2 Meltans. So we have 4 basic Pokemon in this deck. Shieldon itself is I believe stage 1, because it evolves from the Armor Fossil, which is an item. It's considered an item. So when we use our Pokeballs, we are either drawing a Dialga or a Meltan. And we also will be either starting our gameplay with a Dialga or with a Meltan to put into the active spot. Now, if you've just got Meltan, then that's 1 energy straight onto the Meltan to use its ability or use its move, Amass, to also put another energy onto the Meltan. So it just builds up the energy quick. The goal of this deck is just, it's a very defensive deck. It's a very shielded deck. Obviously, Shieldon, Bastiodon, right? These metal types, they're really sturdy, healthy, very protective. What I've added to this deck is the Giant Capes Pokemon tool. That's going to give you plus 20 to the Pokemon that you put it on. It's kind of a slow defensive deck. However, 1 to 2 turns, it could be knocking out Pokemon, knockout an EX Pokemon. You don't have to be discarding any energy, which is nice. It's just a very defensive deck, and it's a very basic deck in my opinion. It's got 1 goal. You play these cards and you defend yourself. It's just it's automatic. You don't have to think super hard about what play are you going to make. You just put these Pokemon out and they're very defensive. Moving on to the advanced gameplay. This deck, in my opinion, is a little bit more trickier to play. However, I think it could be more rewarding. So what we have is Darkrai EX. So Darkrai EX, we take a look at the card and it has 140 HP, which is not a lot. It's not significant. It has an ability, Nightmare Aura. And Nightmare Aura, whenever you attach a dark energy from your energy zone to this Pokemon, do 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. It has a move, Dark Prism, that takes 3 energy and it does 80 damage, which is not significant. It's not a super good EX card that you want to put out into the active spot and try to bully your opponent with. It plays differently. It feeds on the nightmares of your opponent, and the nightmares come in the form of Spiritomb and Weavile. So moving on to the rest of this deck, we have Spiritomb, 80 HP. Swirling Disaster is its 1 move. It's a colorless energy. It's only 1. This attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. I think this deck is so busted because of this card. This is the goal. We want to have Darkrai on our bench. and we want to play Spiritomb. Hopefully we draw a Spiritomb at the start of the game, and we have Spiritomb in the active spot. We put an energy down on Spiritomb. We do 10 damage to all of the Pokemon, whether they're in the active spot or on the bench. Let's say we attack once with Spiritomb. Maybe potentially we've already got a Weavile built up on the bench. Weavile only takes 1 energy to use its move, which is Scratching Nails. It does 30. So it does 30 plus if your opponent's active Pokemon has damage on it, this attack does 40 more damage. So for 1 energy, we're doing 70 damage. Because this is such a low energy cost on these 2 Pokemon, we have now the ability to put energy onto the Darkrai. And whenever we do that, the active Pokemon takes 20 damage. So technically we could be doing 90 damage each hit, each turn. We could do 90 damage in total with this Weavile, with the Darkrai. It's a very quick deck. It does involve some swaps if you need, like, you need to swap into Spiritomb, and then sometimes, you know, Weavile might need to swap out and you go ahead and send in the Darkrai. So what we have in this deck, along with this deck, is we've got 1x speed. We have 2 Pokeballs. We're going to be getting either Spiritomb, Sneasel, or Darkrai from those Pokeballs. In addition to the Pokeballs, we also have the Pokemon Communication card. If we maybe drew too many Sneasels, or we already have a Spiritomb in our active spot and we have another Spiritomb, but we don't need it, we can swap that out to potentially get the evolution for the Sneasel. We could get that Weavile, or we could get the Darkrai that we need to put on the bench, right? We've got a lot of draws from the Pokeballs and with the professor's research. With the Pokemon Communication, we can build up this our bench pretty quickly. Then we have 2 Cyrus, and we have 1 Dawn, and then we have, I believe, 2 Pokemon tools. We have 2 Giant's Capes. The way that this is going to play out is obviously we want Spiritomb in the active spot turn 1, and we attack with Spiritomb. So then their basic Pokemon, whether they're in the active spot or on the bench, have taken damage, some form of damage. Darkrai is hitting them for 20 each turn in the active spot. Now, if they swap out, we play Cyrus. All of their Pokemon would have taken damage because of the Spiritomb, that we can pick which Pokemon we want from their bench and bring them out. We also have Dawn as well. Dawn moves an energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So potentially we needed to switch into the Darkrai and have it in the active spot. Maybe we've got an energy on our bench. We place our energy from the energy zone. That's the word. I want to say pool. We place the energy from the energy zone onto the Darkrai. So that's 20 damage. And then we play Dawn, where we move an energy onto the Darkrai from like our Weavile that's sitting on the bench, right? Also another 20 damage, and then plus 80 for the attack, right? Boom. That is 120 damage right there from the Darkrai. It can hit pretty good. It can hit pretty good. It's a good deck. Definitely play this. It's a bit more advanced for sure. It is more advanced. There's more moving parts in this one than there are in the other 2 decks that I spoke of before. So now we're moving on to the last one, and you guessed it, yes, it is Palkia. This is expert mode. If you wanted to be an expert, this is how you're going to be an expert. Now, what experts do is that they make educated guesses, right? So they make educated guesses, and they gamble a little bit. That's what they do. They gamble a little bit. And educated gambling is what it is. Can I say that? Is that allowed? Okay, anyway, let's move on to this deck. So the main card that we have here is the new Palkia card. Palkia, different from Dialga, Palkia actually hits pretty hard with a move. Its Dimensional Storm move is 4 cost, 150 damage. You discard 3 water energy from this Pokemon, but this attack also does 20 damage to each of the opponent's benched Pokemon. So 150 and then maybe a potential extra 60 damage spread out to the bench. With this, you can have more than 4 energy on this Palkia at a time, right? So you can have 5, you can have 6 energy on it or more. It's not the same as how Infernape EX is playing, where you have to discard all of them. This only discards a certain amount. It only discards 3. So How, you ask, do we get to that amount of energy on this card before the game ends, right? Well, that's where we play Manaphy. Now, what Manaphy does, Oceanic Gift, choose 2 of your bench Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, take a water energy from your energy zone and attach it to that Pokemon. So each of them will get 1 energy. Now, what you want to do is build up your bench. We start with a Manaphy in the active spot. We have Palkia sitting on the bench, maybe our Articuno sitting on the bench, or maybe we've also already evolved our Vaporeon. Now, it doesn't matter exactly where the energy goes, but I think that this deck is going to play well. Like, Manaphy and Vaporeon are going to play well together, because as soon as you evolve that Eevee into the Vaporeon, you're going to be able to use Vaporeon's ability Washout to move that energy, whether it's on your Articuno or whether it's on Palkia or like wherever the energy is. You're going to be able to move that energy all onto the Palkia. So we put it in, we end up, so maybe turn 2 or 3, we've already built up enough energy just from the Manaphy, and we're able to wash out with a Vaporeon and move the energy onto the Palkia, put that into the active spot, boom, 150. That's going to knock out almost every single Pokemon in the game. It's going to knock out so many Pokemon. And if it doesn't, then you just use 1 energy, use Slash, and you knock it out next turn. This deck is going to be really good, in my opinion. However, it is a gamble. And why is it a gamble? Because 1, it requires you to get Vaporeon on your bench. 2, Manaphy has very low HP, could be knocked out in 1 turn. Turn 1 could be knocked out. There's that potential too. It could be absolutely just useless. I wouldn't say absolutely useless, but it could not really work out in your favor. And then also we have Misties, and we all know how Misty goes, right? It's just a coin flip. I don't think that this deck is that bad. I don't think it's as much as a gamble as only having Misties in your deck. The Manaphy, if you play Manaphy to start, it definitely allows this deck to still work out. If you have Manaphy in the active spot turn 1, this deck can still work. It can still get ramped up. Play it around Palkia, definitely. It's got good strength in Palkia. Also Articuno, good strength there, just to do bench damage, kind of spread damage with the Blizzard there. This is definitely going to be a good deck. This is way more expert, in my opinion. There's more moving parts. It's harder to set up. It's harder to play. However, it's going to be very rewarding in the Palkia damage that comes out. Like, it's ridiculous. That's so much damage. Like 150 that plus a potential 60 is 210 damage total. Even though it's spread out, it's 210 damage total, which is just crazy. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe. I'm trying to put a lot of work into this, a lot of effort into it. I really appreciate it. Everyone who watched, likes, subscribes, comments, all those things. You guys are much appreciated. I'm really enjoying this game. I hope that you guys got some good luck opening packs just recently. Like, the art in this game, especially this, especially A2, it's so amazing. I want all these cards. I want to spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this game. However, I'm not going to do that. But if you liked one of these decks, let me know down below in the comments, like, which one you liked the best. Let me know which deck you are playing right now, whether it's one of these or one that you built yourself. Ronin out.